All right, this is Dave from Amplify, and I am interviewing the magnificent Jeff Martin from the Tea Party. I think
How are you, my friend?
I got that right.
Yeah, magnificent, handsome, genius, yeah, all that stuff, right?
No, I think one of the it's always I'm a pretty conscious guy these days. I'm 67, so I'm an old man, but it's always good to run into people that you see. Like I've seen your name a billion times in the last number of 20 years or whatever, doing what I do, and it's always good to run into people that you have a connection with because quantumly, you connect up with all the performances and all the videos and all the different, sounds, and then all of a sudden you talk to them. And most of the time, I talk to a lot of people, they're completely different to the image that I had from this sort of process. They say things that I've got no idea about. You ask them about a favorite something or other, and they say something that's so, just out there, and, it just changes. So I'm looking forward to finding some of that stuff out here with you.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start. How did the band come together back in 1990 in Ontario, Canada? By the way, the Pies won the premiership in 1990, so it's a great. Where, where did it all begin?
Well, it began a long time before that. So Jeff Burrows and Jeff Burrows being the drummer in the Tea Party, we met each other in primary school when I was 5 years old, and he was,
Wow,
yeah, in Windsor, Ontario. Yeah,
Windsor, Ontario. You must be pretty proud at the moment with the Liberals getting up over there in the last day or two.
I am. I'm actually very proud of the Canadian political situation because, what Trump was threatening and you know,
Ridiculous.
all that bullshit, one thing he misunderstood is that Canadians are very, very proud of their sovereignty, and that will never, ever cease to exist. So,
I backpacked around Europe in '86, and the one thing that you could back was on the back of every Canadian's pack or anything was a flag.
yeah,
Every,
absolutely.
every single Canadian you ran into. So, from my perspective, maybe they should be asking Trump to be the ninth or eighth or tenth or whatever state of Canada. That's what they should be
Yeah.
take over.
Well,
They do a better
I
job.
don't think Canadians want the problems of America right
No,
now.
they probably don't. They've got plenty of them. Okay, so you've toured Canada some 21 times, Australia 12 times, released 10 plus albums, EPs, took a break between 2005 and 11. So, with so much history, 25 words or less describe the journey so far. No, not 25 words, but what's the journey been about so far? If you were going to tell someone about the Tea Party.
Um, wow, that's quite the question, and I'm not sure if my answer will do it justice. But
Well, it's
the,
just something brief for people that have turned up and they sort of want to get an idea about, what the Tea Party's about. Because
well,
it's massive.
essentially, the Tea Party's music, the bands that came before us, like the Stones and Zeppelin and the Beatles, a lot of bands, especially in the late 60s, early 70s, were experimenting with music from, let's say India, the Middle East, North Africa. But I think the one thing that the Tea Party did, especially with the Edges of Twilight, is we took it much further, and and I think it's something that if you wanted to know the essence of what the Tea Party is musically, it is that its basis is in hard rock, but the influences that we have are very worldly, and that shines through in the music and the instrumentation. I mean, I recall when we started recording The Edges of Twilight, which was our sophomore record, because of the success of our first record, Splendor Solus. Well, the record company EMI threw a lot of money at us back then because record companies had money, and instead of the bands, spoiling the money on, the usual spoils of that come with rock and roll, we decided to reinvest that money and, turn the recording studio into like, the biggest world music, store. Like there was sitars and sarod and just all manner of stringed instruments, and we just went to town, and it's been with us ever since.
Wow, wow, so and you still record in the same sort of place?
Um, well, I have a studio here in the Sunshine Coast, but the other two boys in the Tea Party, they live in Canada. So we have to make ends meet, geographically speaking. So I think we're finding now that it's like I do a lot of like the groundwork here at my studio, and then when I bring the music to the boys, usually we'll end up either recording in Toronto or Vancouver to make it easier on ourselves. And but yeah, and
And
speaking of that, there'll probably be some new Tea Party music in the very near future.
well, that was a future question. Where did the instruments end up? Are they all gone to cash converters, or still got all the instruments hanging out?
Man, I've got them all. Like my house is a veritable museum of world instruments, and it's like my
Magnificent.
studio. So yeah, they're all my children.
There'd be a lot of history in it. How would you describe your sound? You said, hard rock there at one stage. I think they
I
say
think
progressive rock or alternative rock.
a lot of critics have called the Tea Party's music Moroccan roll. So
Okay, okay. And why do you think? Because you've obviously had a lot of success over the period. Why do you think fans have resonated so much with your music and performance over the years?
well, because like the Tea Party's not really stuck in any decade. Like the music that the band makes is for lack of a better word, and it's been said not only by me but by many people. Like the music that the band makes is very timeless. It doesn't belong to a decade as such or a sound as such, because there's really nothing out there that sounds like the Tea Party. So like definitely, there's influences of Led Zeppelin and influences of the world music and all that, but the way that we've done it, it's our own thing. It's our own signature.
And just in passing, what did you grow up in? What influences? What artists were your go-tos as you were growing up?
Uh, well, definitely the Beatles were very big in my musical journey as a young man, and also my father was a bass player, and very much a blues purist aficionado, and so I grew up like listening to all the blues greats, and that's how I sort of like
Made it.
gained my chops, like on the guitar, and but it was the songwriting of the Beatles, and like the way that Jimmy Page would compose songs for Zeppelin, that's really had a big impact on my songwriting.
Yeah, I don't think Zeppelin gets the chops these days as much as they should, because they were absolutely, almost Beatles standard back then. They were massive. They were just unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Tell me, is the Tea Party Deluxe your latest album?
The Tea Party Deluxe, no, it would not be the latest album.
What's the latest album?
Are you talking about the reissue of Triptych?
I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to catch up with when I looked up quick research. But when I looked up, I saw that it came out in 21, and that's the last one that was listed there.
Yeah, you know what? I think it is. I think it's the Triptych reissue called Deluxe, and yeah, a lot of outtakes on there that I've forgotten that we had done. So it's a pretty impressive body of work, But I'm very proud of the band's past, but I am more excited about what's to come in the future.
Yeah, well, talking about that, what you were talking about music, when can we expect it? And can you tell us much about it today?
Um, well, it's definitely going to be putting our stamp back on, the world music situation. But I've got touring commitments. Like obviously this Neil Young concert's coming up in
Yeah.
August. The 4 shows. And then after that, there'll be some more Tea Party touring. And once we get that under our belts, then it's time to write the new record. So I'm hoping like maybe mid 26. We'll definitely definitely hear a couple singles first, before the
Yeah,
whole album lands. Yeah.
yeah. And just before we move on to the Neil Young item, if I asked you, I want to. I don't know the Tea Party. I do, but if I said I don't know the Tea Party, what would you direct me to listen to sort of get the best comprehension of it? What album or what EP, what music?
Um, I would say that Triptych is actually a good way to go because it has elements of the Edges of Twilight, it has elements of Transmission, has elements of the first one, Splendor Solace. So Triptych would be an all-rounder for people that had never heard the Tea Party as of yet.
Okay. Okay, let's chat about celebrating Neil Young from Harvest to Harvest Moon. How did you come across this Neil Young? Neil Young obviously is massive for all us old timers, but how did you come across the desire to do something like this?
Well, it goes back a few years now, maybe about 6, 7 years ago. I did a tour with a bunch of other musicians celebrating the music of REM, and and it was a great experience. And the guy, his name is Fraser from Metropolis Touring.
Yeah,
He put that REM thing together, and myself and the musical director Paul McDonald, who's the leader of the very fine band that will be backing us up. Him and I chatted at the end of that situation, and because we enjoyed the process so much, and over a few glasses of wine, it was like, what artists would we want to do next if we ever could do this again? And I think both of us agreed like it was either going to be like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, or Young, or just Neil Young. And so years later, we've come to this, and judging by the ticket sales and
I
whatnot,
know
it's going to be a very successful little run of shows.
going to be a big one. And Shane Nicholson and Richie Lewis, how did they get into it?
Well, I'm not actually sure, but I've never met them as of yet. But I'm
Really?
looking forward to it because two great talents and great voices, and so I'm pretty sure that just like me, they would have jumped at the chance to interpret the songs of Neil Young because it's not. Like I'm not going to say that this is a tribute concert because I think of tribute concerts and the band like a tribute band tries to sound exactly
No.
like and this is more of a an interpretation of the songs of Neil Young because I mean like let's face it, like my singing voice and Neil Young's singing voice
Right.
are polar opposites.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So what are you looking forward to most? Because it's a different tour. It's like when you go out and you're doing your own thing, you're doing it with the band, you're doing it with music that's sort of, all through your system. This is sort of a different thing because the music's, as much as you know it, it's sort of fresh from a performance point of view. So
yeah.
what are you looking forward to with this one?
Well, I'm like I've started rehearsing the songs that I'm performing, but we won't have full rehearsals until August comes around. So I'm looking forward to how my interpretations of the songs that I'm performing work with the band, because the band is made up of, I mean, I'm not sure who's in it, but I know if Paul McDonald is the leader, which he is, he handpicks like some of the
Yeah,
finest
yeah,
session musicians in Australia, right? So
yeah.
it'll be that beautiful unknown of like how it all comes together and the magic and I love if I'm going on my experience of the REM situation a few years ago, what I loved about the whole ensemble thing is the camaraderie that happens
Yeah, yeah.
on the road, and you become fast friends quite quickly, so that'll be fun.
All right, if you could perform with any music artist alive or dead, who's it going to be and why?
Oh,
Yeah, we've got to have some shit questions in this interview.
yeah, no. I mean, I've been really very, very fortunate in my career, like personally meeting like a lot of my heroes. I've worked with Roy Harper. Um, met Jimmy Page many times, and it would be great. It'd be great to sit down with Page and like maybe do an acoustic record, and just the Sorcerer and the Apprentice, that sort of thing. 'Cause I'm looking at your poster in the back and the Master's Apprentices. So
Oh yeah, the boy. I've got it. I got that from what's his son. Many years ago, I was a pawnbroker, and he gave it to me back about 20, 30 years ago. So
yeah.
just one of the things we have. But is Page still playing a lot, or he's pretty old now, the boy?
I think that Page is more or less content with being like the curator of Zeppelin's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
its legend and its its history, and and I mean, like if the guy doesn't want to play anymore, then doesn't have to. He's done it all.
I know he's done it all, but we think about Freddie and Live Aid because we see it on the video, and whether it was Wembley or wherever they were. But gee whiz, I'm a big fan of Pages and the band, and they were to see some of their old stuff was just unbelievable. They were just fantastic.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've yet to see the Becoming Led Zeppelin, the movie, but I guess I'll have to wait until it streams. I don't really get out to the movie theaters much these days. So
Is there a reason for that?
it's like this beautiful home that Melissa and I have. It's really hard to leave. It's like it's paradise, and I've got the most incredible recording studio on my property.
Yeah.
And, so it's kind of hard to
I,
leave. Like
I was interviewing someone, I can't remember who it was now. He put together about 30, he was doing it with the old age, but he was doing it with one of the major female lead singers from one of the heavy bands, and he did it every year, and it was like an opera type arrangement that he'd done for about 28 times, and it was massive. And he'd worked with everyone and done everything. And when I interviewed him, he says, "I don't want to leave here. I got my dog, and I'm here. I don't leave here. I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything. I just sit here." Because when you get older, and I can understand it, when you get older and you've done it, you don't need to go out there and fuel anything. You just need to satisfy yourself. And I don't know about you. I don't know how your joints and all that are. They're probably, do they suffer these days, or are you pretty right body wise?
I'm in pretty good health, man. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
very fortunate, and like, and because I tour,
yeah,
so that's my moment to catch up with friends, all around the world, and
yeah.
get out into the cities and all that stuff. Like, like I love the city life just to visit, but I wouldn't live in a city again, so.
No. Cities are, well, the whole world. We could talk about that for a few days.
Hmm.
Okay. What's the best thing about performing to a live audience?
Just seeing the emotional reactions, like my the way that the Tea Party affects people, and my solo shows, also they're very emotional occasions for people, like, and I just love walking away from a stage knowing that I have positively emotionally affected an audience.
Yeah, it's a good,
That's my thing.
good thing, and you do. If you had to pick one career highlight, what would it be?
One career highlights, probably opening up at for Page and Plants at the Montreal Forum back in '96.
Wow.
Yeah, it was their last show that they did with the Egyptian Orchestra.
Wow.
And in the Tea Party, when we finished that show, we got a standing ovation, which very hard to do in front of Page and Plants.
Absolutely. Wow. Well done. That was great. Okay, being so experienced, crossing so many technological boundaries over the last 30 years, especially with, bloody streaming and all sorts of things that have changed the world, what piece of advice would you give to an artist starting out today?
Um, Well, I guess the best advice I could, like, because now everything is about streaming for the most part. I mean, with my audience, I'm very fortunate because people want the physical,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But for young artists coming out of the blocks, the starting blocks, it's all about streaming. And so the one thing that is very important with streaming is something called the waterfall effect.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's about when you release a single and then you release a second single, you make sure that the first single is attached to that second single. And so that it just kind of creates an algorithm that
Yeah.
people have to keep listening to what you've done, you know?
It's good advice. And work hard, perform a lot, because that's one of the things that I think is a key to building an audience.
Well, and also to like, it's very hard to make money these days, like with recorded music, like especially for the young ones coming out. But if you can satisfy, the demands of a live audience, if your craft is that good and you can, put on a great show and do it with integrity, I mean, that's where you can make a living.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'm going to finish with there's about 8 or 10 questions here, but they're pretty quick questions that you'll hate. So
Okay.
we always have to finish with something that gets people knowing why they don't want to turn up next time.
All right.
No. What's the craziest thing you've ever done? Asking you that is like, I should say, just list the 12 most craziest things you've ever done, because I'm sure there's probably, even though you probably won't think of one, if you probably sat down and went through it, there's probably a dozen you'd probably give me. And there's probably, you couldn't give me the one that you could think of now, because it probably won't run. So if you want, I'll move on to the next question.
I think you should move on. Yes.
I have that. I get that response a bit because it sort of, people start to think about some of the craziest shit they've done, and they think they wouldn't get into the country if they told it. What's the one topic you can talk about for hours?
The one topic I can talk about for hours, I don't know, the love for my wife.
Isn't that fantastic? How long you been together?
We celebrated our 9th anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations. It's pretty good. I think love is the key. And so if you can start from that sort of perspective, it sort of transmutes a lot of other things that are happening around you.
Absolutely.
What's the thing you like most about yourself?
Oh, I don't know. What? My wife's coaching me right now. What is it? What?
You're an excellent cook.
Oh, well, okay. She says I'm an excellent cook, and I am.
Really?
Yeah.
When's the cookbook coming out?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We've tossed that idea around, but yeah, like Melissa and I, we wake up in the morning thinking about what part of the world we want to go to in the evening, and like what kind of cuisine we want to cook.
Yeah.
And so, like for instance, if it's Moroccan, then I have to make sure that I've got a Moroccan playlist going as I'm cooking, right? So it's things like that,
Well, I think one of the things that I always experience in these situations is I think about the fact that, you're at a place where you obviously, you've traversed life and you've got a pretty good grasp on who you are and what you're about, etc. And most of the world is pretty well lost in thought and, pretty well lost in the depression and all this sort of stuff. And I think that we've sort of got a responsibility, if we can, to teach people to fish, sort of thing. Teach them how to be a part of this existence, which you're describing now. You're in your palace at home. You've got a love that you've got. You're doing what you want to do. You've got all this stuff around you, and it didn't happen because someone walked up and gave it to you. All the way through, you had to work for. You had to go through all sorts of situations, and there's a lot of people, especially in the bloody crypto, OnlyFans environment, that want to make money in 10 minutes. And so they try and get a part, and everyone rips them off. And so they get depressed. So that cookbook might be a good idea to help get some of the personality across, because you come across as someone that I think would probably do a cookbook justice.
All right.
A video, especially. Okay, let's finish with some favorite questions. Favorite album? Can be all time, can be today, can be whatever you want.
Favorite album? It's called The Black Balloon by John Renbourn.
Whoa. Favorite artist?
Musical?
I'd say musical, yeah, not painting.
Favorite artist, Claude Debussy.
Whoa, obscure. Favorite movie?
Angel Heart.
There you go. There's a favorite place to visit.
Favorite place to visit? Um, should I say Melbourne?
Well, you should. I would say when we do these tours, people should say Australia if they come out from outside of Australia. Might help sell some tickets. But I think yours is probably going to be sold out, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can say wherever.
No, but you know what? Actually, my favorite place to visit, it's very dear to Melissa and I, our hearts, is Fez in Morocco.
Really?
Yeah.
Geez, I tell you what, Jeff, there's a 4 hour video that I could do. I reckon by the time I break you down. Favorite venue to play?
The Palais in Melbourne.
Always, that's timeless.
Yeah.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? I'm gonna have to say Japanese.
Japanese is great. Favorite drink?
um, Vodka, lime, and soda.
Really?
Yeah.
Favorite person in history apart from me?
Apart from you, favorite person in history? Well, I guess I gotta say my mom. You know,
That's
so
that's cool, because some people come back with obvious, Mandela or something, some influence, but a lot of people come back with family members because they are. They're if you're lucky enough to have a good one, they obviously, create a foundation that's terrific. And favorite, you must have a tattoo.
I don't.
You don't, you're clean skin.
As far as I know, yes.
Throughout the whole of your existence, in all of that 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
you never got into a situation where
Buddy, I am terrified of needles.
really.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff, it's been great talking to you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think you've got a pretty good grasp on what's taking place, and I look forward to pulling out Triptych and having a listen and another listen, and I can't wait for you to come on down and hear you sing some Neil Young songs.
All right. Thanks, my friend. It was my
Thank
pleasure.
you, man. Take care. Take care of everything up there. And when you come out with the cooking thing, come on back and, we'll push it around here.
All right. Very good.
Good on
Thanks.
you, brother. Take care.
Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Bye-bye.